I know this show came out a while ago, but I've been a little preoccupied and slow. But hey, I finished it. Hello everyone, I'm Bunny Bouncer and welcome back to my rabbit hole of gaming and all things in the geekdom. I've been doing a lot of gaming videos lately because that's what I've really been into, but today I wanted to talk about the show that I just finished, which is Sweet Tooth. So DC Comics and Netflix came together to make a live-action adaptation of the DC Comics limited series Sweet Tooth by, I think his name is Jeff Lemire? I think it's Jeff Lemire. It is produced by Robert Downey Jr. and Susan Downey Jr., except there's no Jr. in her name. It's just Susan Downey. I don't know why I can't just say Susan Downey. It always just comes out Susan Downey Jr. If you don't know what this show is, essentially the world crashed and burned after there was this huge plague that wiped out most of the population called the Sick. During this plague, babies began mutating and taking on animal-like features, and they were called hybrids. Sweet Tooth focuses on a specific deer hybrid baby named Gus, and it's about his journey and the people that he meets along the way. Don't want to give away too many spoilers, but that's the gist of the story. Now, I didn't read the comics. I was going to, but I decided I didn't want to enter into the show with any ideas or preconceived feelings about this work. That way I could just watch it and just enjoy it for what it is. And I loved it. First off, it is rated TV-14. The language was minor. You had one notable episode to where the S word is bleeped out in the title itself. And if I had to ballpark it, I'd say 6 or 7 times they said the S word. Through most of the show, it's very minor. It's less than you'd see in a sitcom. There's no gore, there's no sex, and the violence is also very minimal. All in all, it's TV-14. It's relatively safe. It's up to each parent whether or not they think it's suitable, but I feel like the PG-13 TV-14 rating is pretty fair, because you also have to take into account the story and the nuances and the different aspects that go into that and how much the kids are going to understand. The acting I thought was good. There are some characters, namely the young characters who of course are being played by young inexperienced actors, and at times they weren't great, but they do a good job through most of it. And the directing and the writing I thought was awesome. Now, the tricky part is going to be telling you guys my favorite parts of the show without giving any spoilers. In the show, they bring up some deeper, more serious issues that I feel like most people either ignore or they just decide not to talk about because they're deep, and it takes a lot of actual, honest self-evaluation for some of these things that get brought up, which surprised me. I'm not gonna lie. I came into this kind of expecting like a feel-good adventure, young preteen show, just wrapped in apocalypse clothing. Because that's the trend now. It's young adult books and movies and shows with love triangles and, you're special and fight the powers that be. It's true. Sad, but it's true. Not a lot of deep quality content with younger geared shows and really any kind of entertainment. If you're already subscribed to my channel, you rock. And if you aren't subscribed, make sure that you subscribe and stay tuned for my wise and intelligent rambling. The first thing that I noticed them bringing up is how dividing fear is. We all like to imagine that in the face of trauma or epidemic or, just world-ending apocalypse type stuff, that we'd all be level-headed, we would maintain our morals, and we would all, come together and we would, stand proud as humanity. But if we're totally honest, mankind in groups is just disastrous. We are far more prone to infighting and mob rule, and when you add in fear, morality and good sense just right out the window. And it highlights that. The second thing is it really makes you stop and evaluate the age-old saying, the end justifies the means. Because is a goal or a principle really good if you have to do a lot of evil to reach it? No. The third thing is, can you go too far for the sake of a loved one? I'm sure some people will get to the part where this question popped into my mind and they'll just breeze right through it. But to me, it was the only thing I could think about in certain areas of the show. And my answer was yes, because I feel like it is 100% the only right answer. You can't go too far. Love is not an acquittal and it is not a justification. The fourth thing is it shows how easily a good cause can be overtaken by hatred or vengeance. And this is shown in many areas of the show. You know, wherefore by their fruits you shall know them. You can say you're doing something good, but it doesn't mean that you are if you're just doing a bunch of bad and using the banner of something good to justify doing those bad things. The fifth thing is that it subtly brings up the notion of sacrifice for the greater good, not in the sense of sacrificing yourself for the greater good, but rather forcing someone else to sacrifice for the greater good. And it's a notion that I know a lot of people have, and it's one that I do not agree with. Because the idea that we can force anyone to sacrifice anything on the grounds of a greater good, it requires you to think that you are better than that person, and thus have the power to choose what they should sacrifice for. It's a notion that there are somehow people out there, whether they be grown or babies, whether they're like you or they're different, that these people are lesser humans than you. And since they're lesser than you, you can decide what they're allowed to do, what they should believe in, what they should stand for, what they should give for, and whether they get to live. And I disagree with that. And this show just kind of shines a light on that mindset and makes you think about it. The sixth thing it highlights is family and what family really is. I'm not talking relatives, meaning people you are blood related to, but family. Because being blood related to somebody doesn't actually mean that you're family. And the show kind of centers a little bit on not just people we're related to, but the family that we make for ourselves. And the biggest thing, they didn't throw these points at you and give you a moral guideline or directions on what you as the viewer must feel at the end of the show. They did what Disney and Marvel are currently failing to do. Because Disney and Marvel are creating these stories piled high with these moral plots, and they're very biased, and they're making it almost as if you're evil if you don't agree with these biased plots, which I think is wrong in any media. But this DC project, or at least this adaptation of a DC project, because I don't know what the comics are like, I just know the show, they did it right. They gave information surrounding some more deeper moral issues. They presented the questions in them, and they left it up to their viewers to ask themselves where they stand on these things. I'm happy with the show. It was entertaining, it was cute and fun, and it also had some deeper plot lines and stuff in it that made it a bit more of a thinker. It was a lot deeper than I thought it would be, and I enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend this show to anyone who's considering it. If you've watched it already, make sure you comment down below. Let me know what you liked about it and what you disliked about it. And let me know if you're hoping for a season 2, because I am.